The world woke up to headlines that no fan was ready to read. Demet Özdemir's new romance confirmed, flashed across every entertainment portal, with photos of her smiling tenderly beside a man no one had ever seen before. The restaurant lights of Istanbul glowed softly in the background, her laughter frozen in that single, devastating moment, proof that she had moved on. For millions who had followed her story with Yaman, it was like watching the closing scene of a love story they still believed in. The chemistry, the interviews, the endless behind-the-scenes clips, everything about them had once screamed meant to be. And yet now, there she was, hand in hand with someone else. Ken was in Rome when the news broke. He had just finished a long day on set when his phone began buzzing with notifications. At first, he thought it was just another rumor, there had been so many over the years. But when he opened the photo, the silence around him became deafening. Crew members said he stood there for nearly a full minute, unmoving, eyes fixed on the screen. He didn't speak. He didn't call anyone. He just turned off the phone, took a deep breath, and walked out into the cool Roman night. Those who saw him that evening said he seemed calm, but his calmness wasn't peace, it was shock wearing a mask of control. Fans, of course, went into meltdown. Twitter trended with hashtags like #CanandDemetForever and #DemetMovedOn, while Instagram flooded with edits of their old scenes together. Some defended Demet, saying she deserved happiness. Others begged Ken to fight for her. The internet became a battlefield of emotions, each side trying to rewrite a story whose ending no one wanted to accept. But Ken stayed silent. No interviews, no posts, no cryptic quotes. For a man who had built a reputation on passion and fire, his silence was more powerful than any outburst could have been. Insiders close to him later revealed that he had said only one thing that night, to a trusted friend. "If it's true, then I hope she's really happy. Because if she's not, that would break me more than losing her." Those quiet words never made it to the headlines, but they captured everything, the love, the acceptance, and the pain. It wasn't anger that filled him. It was an ache only those who have loved deeply can understand, the ache of realizing that sometimes, no matter how much two hearts once belonged together, life simply takes them in different directions. And as Istanbul buzzed with gossip and Rome slept under its ancient sky, one truth became clear: Yaman wasn't just losing a love story. He was watching the end of the one chapter that had defined him the most. The following morning, paparazzi were everywhere. Outside the hotel, near the set, even by the gym he visited every day. Everyone wanted one thing, a reaction. "Ken, have you seen the photos? Do you have anything to say about Demet's new boyfriend?" Flashlights flickered, voices echoed, but Ken just walked past, head down, sunglasses on, a quiet storm behind his expressionless face. For a man known for his intensity, for his sharp eyes, his proud posture, his unfiltered honesty, his silence was shocking. He didn't slam doors. He didn't post cryptic lines on social media like he used to. He simply disappeared from the noise. His close friend later said, he didn't want to turn pain into a show. He said real feelings don't need an audience. That night, he finally broke his silence, but in a way no one expected. A group of journalists caught him outside a luxury hotel in Rome, where he had just finished dinner with the cast of his latest project. When one of them shouted, "Ken, what do you think about Demet's new relationship?" he stopped walking. For a moment, he didn't move. Cameras clicked in every direction. Then, calmly, he looked up and said, "As long as she's happy, I won't stand in her way." Just 11 words. Yet those words exploded across the internet like lightning. Within minutes, the clip was trending on Twitter, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. Fan accounts replayed it in slow motion, analyzing every blink, every micro-expression. His voice didn't tremble, but his eyes did. "He's still in love," one fan commented. "You can see it, he's forcing himself to be strong." Another wrote, "That's not indifference. That's heartbreak disguised as maturity." Even entertainment reporters, usually hungry for drama, couldn't help but describe the moment as the most graceful heartbreak ever seen. There was no bitterness, no sarcasm, just a man choosing to let go of someone he still cared about deeply. Meanwhile, Demet's name dominated headlines again. The press tried to get her reaction to Can's words, but she stayed quiet. A friend of hers allegedly told a magazine, "Demet knows what kind of man Can is." She knew he wouldn't attack her. That's why she respected him so much. Back in Rome, after that short exchange, Can returned to his hotel room and didn't come out for hours. The next morning, he posted a single black and white photo to Instagram, the sun setting over the sea, captioned only with one word, peace. Fans flooded the comments with messages like "We're proud of you," and "That's real love," wishing happiness even from afar. But those who looked closer saw something else in that post, the silence between the words. Because behind that single word peace, there was a man quietly breaking, holding on to dignity while the world watched him let go of the woman he once believed was his forever. In the days following his statement, Can threw himself into work. Every morning, he arrived on set earlier than anyone else. He stayed late, volunteered for extra scenes, smiled for cameras when needed, but those who knew him well could see through it. His eyes were tired, his laughter didn't reach as far, and sometimes, between takes, he'd go quiet, staring at nothing, lost in thought. One crew member described it perfectly, "It's like he's here, but part of him is somewhere else." That somewhere else was, of course, the past, the moments that still echoed no matter how much time had passed. He would remember the early mornings in set trailers with Demet, laughing at inside jokes. The way she used to steal his coffee just to tease him. The moments when cameras stopped rolling, but the chemistry didn't. Back then, it wasn't about fame or image, it was something real, something simple, two people who found joy in each other's presence. Sometimes, late at night, when the city was quiet, he'd scroll through his phone, through photos he never deleted. Not the ones fans had seen, but the small ones, blurry selfies, private smiles, those moments that were too personal to ever share. He never liked to admit it, but those pictures were pieces of a story he wasn't ready to erase. A close friend once asked him, "Why don't you just delete them? It would help you move on." Can smiled faintly and said, "I'll delete them when they stop hurting." But they never really stopped. Because love like that doesn't vanish, it transforms. It turns into silence, into memories, into lessons that stay with you long after the other person is gone. In a rare interview, when asked about what he thought of love after fame, Kim paused for a long time before answering. Love doesn't disappear when people change, it just learns to live in a different way. Sometimes you keep it as respect, sometimes as gratitude, and sometimes, as quiet pain. That quote went viral, of course. Fans connected it immediately to Demet. They said his eyes told the rest of the story, that he still missed her, still carried her in a place no camera could reach. And maybe they were right. Because despite his success, his travels, his fame, there was still something incomplete in him, something left unsaid. People could sense it when he smiled, it was as if his heart still whispered her name even when his lips didn't. He had learned to live with that emptiness, not as a wound, but as a reminder of something beautiful he once had, something that, even in its absence, still made him who he was. Weeks passed. The media, always hungry for headlines, tried to keep the story alive, but Can refused to feed it. When asked again about Demet, his response was calm and measured. "She deserves peace. And so do I." That simple sentence, uttered under flashing cameras, was more than a public statement, it was closure. It wasn't bitterness. It wasn't regret. It was acceptance. Meanwhile, Demet was in Paris for a magazine shoot. When a reporter gently asked if she had seen Can's reaction, she smiled, her eyes softening. "Yes," she said quietly. "And I know he meant it." That single sentence broke the internet once again. Within hours, her words were trending on every platform, paired with old clips of them together. Fans called it the most beautiful goodbye ever seen. Because even though they were miles apart, their connection still spoke, not through arguments or confessions, but through mutual respect that time could not erase. Behind the glamour and interviews, however, both of them seemed different. Demet's smile had traces of nostalgia, Can's confidence carried a new kind of stillness. It was as if they both understood that some stories don't need a second act to be unforgettable. In private, those close to Can said he had found peace not in forgetting, but in forgiving himself, the past, and the dreams that never came true. He stopped asking what if, and instead started saying thank you. Thank you for what it was. Thank you for what it taught him. He once told a director during a late-night conversation, "Love is not always about holding on. Sometimes, real love is knowing when to let go, and wishing the other person happiness, even if it's not with you." Those words would later appear, almost word for word, in a magazine interview, and readers instantly recognized the message behind them. It wasn't fiction. It was a man's heart, speaking from experience. Then came the night of the awards gala in Milan. Both Can and Demet were invited, the first time in years they would share the same red carpet. The atmosphere buzzed with tension. Cameras waited, fans screamed, flashes filled the air. And when they finally saw each other across the room, just for a few seconds, everything went silent. No words, no gestures, just a look. A look that carried every memory, every emotion, every goodbye they never said out loud. That moment, caught by a single camera, would later go viral. Comment sections filled with one sentence repeated over and over again. "You can't fake a look like that." It was the kind of silence that said everything. The kind of silence that only two people who truly loved each other could share. Months passed. The headlines changed, new projects began, new faces appeared beside both of them, yet for many fans, the story of Can and Demet never truly ended. It had become something larger than gossip or television. It was a story of love, loss, and quiet strength, the kind that doesn't fade even when the world moves on. Can once said during an interview in Italy, "People think love is only real when it ends happily. But the truth is, sometimes the most powerful kind of love is the one that teaches you something, even if it breaks you." His words weren't directed at anyone, but everyone knew who he was talking about. The way he spoke her name, or avoided it, said more than 1,000 sentences could. He had changed. Fame had made him stronger, heartbreak had made him wiser. The fire in him still burned, but it no longer consumed him. Instead, it warmed him. Like a quiet flame that refuses to go out, no matter how many storms pass. Demet, too, seemed more grounded than before. In interviews, she spoke about peace, about new beginnings, about accepting the past. Yet every time her name was mentioned alongside Can's, there was that same soft smile, not of regret, but of gratitude. Because some people don't come into your life to stay forever, they come to change you forever. In late summer, Kim posted something unexpected. A short video on his story, no words, no background music. Just the sea, the sunset, and a handwritten note that read, "Sometimes love doesn't end. It just takes another form." Within minutes, the clip spread like wildfire. Fans from all over the world commented the same thing. "He's talking about her." And maybe he was. Maybe he always would be. Because the kind of connection they shared doesn't belong to time or circumstance. It lingers, in memories, in glances, in words unspoken. Months later, when they both attended separate charity events in Istanbul, their paths crossed again, briefly. They exchanged a smile, nothing more. But witnesses described it as something almost cinematic, two souls who had finally found peace with each other, even if their roads now led in different directions. As the cameras flashed and the crowd cheered, Ken whispered something to a friend beside him. "She's happy. That's enough." And in that moment, the world understood, his story with Demet wasn't one of bitterness or regret. It was a story of love that matured, endured, and survived in silence. Because when he said, "I won't stand in her way," he wasn't letting her go out of weakness. He was letting her go out of love.